Welcome in, and thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Really glad to be here.
So it is Monday, March 2nd, 2026, and today we are looking at something you probably interact with, all the time without even realizing the incredible amount of calculation going on behind the
Oh,
scenes.
yeah, it's a completely hidden world,
We're taking you straight into the hidden logistics of the hospitality industry.
which is, a fascinating world that most of us just walk right past on our way to grab a table.
Absolutely. So, our source material today is a highly specialized piece of insider intelligence. It is the GWT2Energy Weekly U.S. Weather Impact and Restaurant Operations Forecast.
Quite an awful.
It is. Now, I know you hear the phrase weather forecast, and you might immediately picture a local news anchor pointing at a green screen with a graphic of a sun or a rain cloud.
Right, the typical 5-day outlook.
Exactly. But I promise you, this is something entirely different. This is a briefing designed specifically for restaurant operators and commercial energy managers. It is essentially a strategic survival playbook.
It really is.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because when you or I look at a weather app on our phones, we're just trying to figure out if we need to, you know, grab a jacket or an umbrella before we leave the house.
Yeah, it's personal convenience.
Right. But when a massive restaurant group looks at these exact same probabilistic data points, they're trying to protect fragile supply chains, keep their staff safe, and manage the completely hidden, massive costs of keeping their dining rooms comfortable for you.
Which is such a critical distinction. When you dive into this document, you realize very quickly that weather isn't just small talk for these businesses. It is the ultimate unpredictable variable in their profit margins.
Definitely.
This GWT2Energy report focuses on two very distinct, very serious threats to their operations.
Yeah.
On one hand, you have the immediate physical danger of sudden storms.
Like severe thunderstorms.
Exactly. The kinds of severe events that cause sudden closures, physical damage, or critical power issues.
Right.
And then on the other hand, you have this quieter, almost invisible threat, which is extreme temperature shifts. These unseasonal spikes and dips secretly strain commercial HVAC systems and can, honestly, absolutely bleed a restaurant's profits dry before the general manager even realizes what's happening.
It really is a two-front battle.
Yeah.
So let's start with that first threat, the threat from the skies. I'm looking at their immediate 7-day storm outlook, which runs from today, March 2nd, through March 8th.
Yep, the immediate window.
Now, looking at the map for today, it seems totally clear. No severe risk signaled at all. And it looks like hurricanes are a total non-issue right now, less than a 1% likelihood of any impact.
Which is expected for early March.
Right. But things seem to escalate really quickly by midweek. Walk me through what the danger zone actually looks like here.
It escalates very quickly. Tomorrow, Tuesday, March 3rd, we start seeing a marginal risk popping up, specifically tracking the potential for isolated large hail.
Where's that hitting?
That's stretching from western Oklahoma up into south central and eastern Kansas.
Oh.
But the real focus of this report hits on Wednesday and Thursday, March 4th and 5th. The risk level elevates to what the Storm Prediction Center officially designates as a slight risk across the southern plains and the western Ozarks.
What's wild is how specific this report gets for the operators. Like, they are red flagging the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, Arlington, and Plano, Texas.
Highly populated areas with tons of restaurants.
Exactly. And the threats listed are serious. We're talking large hail, damaging winds, and the potential for isolated tornadoes. But they also give these exact probabilities. The report notes roughly a 15% chance of any severe thunderstorm occurring, and a 2 to 5% chance of a tornado within these slight risk areas.
Right.
And then looking just a bit further out to the weekend, by Saturday, March 7th, that potential shifts eastward toward the Mid-South, zeroing in on the Memphis, Tennessee area.
Which tracks with typical spring storm movements.
Yeah. But let me ask you this. A 2 to 5% chance of a tornado sounds tiny to you and me. If I saw a 5% chance of rain, I'd probably still leave my umbrella at home. Why does a restaurant care about a percentage that low?
What's fascinating here is how this meteorological data translates directly into operational strategy. You're right. For an individual, a 2 to 5% chance seems low enough to ignore. You might still plan to go out to dinner.
I totally would.
But for a restaurant operator, the report translates this into a 10 to 20% likelihood of operational disruption midweek. That translates to a 1 in 5 chance their entire week's operation gets derailed.
Wow.
And that disruption isn't just about customers deciding to stay home and order delivery instead.
Right, it's a physical vulnerability.
Very much so. Think about the modern restaurant layout. We're talking about severe wind and large hail, physically destroying incredibly expensive outdoor patio setups.
Oh, I didn't even think about the patios.
Yeah, those custom umbrellas, commercial heaters, string lighting, outdoor seating, all of that represents major capital investments. If you don't secure them, they are gone.
Just blown away or smashed by hail.
Exactly. And even more critical is the power supply. A severe storm can cause brief power outages. For a homeowner, a flickering light is just an annoyance, right?
Yeah.
You reset the microwave clock and move on.
Right, maybe light a candle.
But for a commercial kitchen, a brief power outage can knock out critical refrigeration units.
Wait, so you're telling me a brief flicker of power from a thunderstorm could force a kitchen to throw out an entire walk-in cooler full of inventory?
It happens all the time. If those systems go down and the temperature drops below safe levels, entire walk-in coolers full of premium steaks, seafood, dairy, it all has to be thrown out to comply with local health codes.
That is brutal.
That is thousands of dollars gone in an instant. It's the kind of thing that can ruin a restaurant's entire month in the span of 20 minutes.
Which completely changes how you view a spring thunderstorm.
It really does.
And the report doesn't just stop at the 7-day mark. It looks ahead to the 14 to 21-day long-range storm risk. They note that the extended forecast signals a generally elevated early spring severe risk, stretching all the way across the central and southern plains into the deep south.
So we're talking Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Alabama, and Georgia.
Right. Now, they aren't signaling any specific high-probability outbreaks just yet, but they do note a 10 to 25% regional likelihood of a notable severe weather day during that window. The big recommendation from GWT2Energy is to have backup plans ready now. Secure the patios, figure out your protocol.
Which is the pure essence of commercial risk management. You don't wait for the 90% probability to act. You build your contingencies when the risk hits 15 or 20%.
So while those managers in Texas are tying down their patio umbrellas to survive the midweek hail, managers across the entire southern half of the country are facing a completely different, completely silent threat.
The early spring heat wave.
Exactly. Let's get into the second half of this report, focusing on extreme temperature shifts and HVAC strain, because this is where the daily granular management really happens. First, the report defines what extreme actually means for their clients.
It's not just about it feeling a little unusually warm outside.
Right. They define an extreme as highs over 95 degrees Fahrenheit, lows under 40 degrees Fahrenheit, or temperature departures of 15 degrees or more from the standard March seasonal averages.
And that departure metric is the crucial one to watch.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second. A 15-degree temperature swing. I feel like that happens all the time in the spring. You wear a sweater in the morning and a t-shirt in the afternoon. Why is a 15-degree swing suddenly a catastrophic threat to a restaurant's profit margin?
It comes down to two things: utility billing structures and physical equipment shock.
Okay.
First, commercial energy isn't billed like your house. Businesses often pay based on their peak demand.
Peak demand.
Yeah. If a restaurant's air conditioning suddenly kicks into overdrive for just one hot afternoon in early March, the utility company might lock them into a higher premium rate for the entire month based on that single spike.
Are you kidding?
No, it's standard practice. The energy load is suddenly entirely out of sync with their historical projections and their budget.
That is brutal. One hot Tuesday ruins the budget for the rest of the month.
Precisely. And the second issue is the physical strain. Think of a massive commercial HVAC system in early March, like a marathon runner who has been resting all winter.
Okay, I can picture that.
If you suddenly force them into a full sprint on an unseasonably 85-degree day without warming up, they're going to pull a muscle. A 15-degree swing in July is expected. The systems are already running at summer capacity. But an unseasonal swing in March shocks the equipment.
And that shock is exactly what they are forecasting right now. Looking at the 7-day heat wave from March 2nd to March 8th, the report highlights widespread, record-challenging warmth stretching all the way from the southwest to the mid-Atlantic.
It's a huge coverage area.
Huge. We are talking about temperatures expected to be 15 to 30 degrees above average, and the confidence level is incredibly high here. There is a 60 to 80% likelihood of these warm extremes occurring.
That's a near certainty in the forecasting world.
Right. Now, they do note that actual highs over 95 degrees remain unlikely, under 5%. And while lows under 40 degrees are possible early in the week for the Northeast and Midwest, that's actually normal for the season in those regions.
The real story is that unseasonal warmth.
Let's look at the specific cities they highlight. In the Southwest, places like Phoenix, Arizona, and Las Vegas, Nevada, they're looking at hitting 85 to 95 degrees. That is 20 to 30 degrees above average for early March.
That's practically summer temperatures.
It is. Moving to the south and southeast, so Houston, Atlanta, Tampa, Jackson, Mississippi, and Charlotte, North Carolina, they are forecasting highs of 75 to 85 degrees, which is 15 to 25 degrees above their averages.
Significant departures.
Even up in the mid-Atlantic, in Washington, D.C. and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, they are expected to hit the mid-70s. That's 15 to 20 degrees warmer than usual.
The cascade of consequences from those numbers is staggering when you operate a commercial building.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because when you and I see 75 degrees in Pittsburgh in early March, we think, amazing, let's grab a table outside on the patio.
Let's get some sun.
Exactly. But how does this actually impact the operations inside the restaurant?
It changes the entire energy profile of the building. The mechanics of this are fascinating. Let's look at those southern restaurants in places like Houston or Atlanta. They are looking at a massive early season 20 to 30% increase in their cooling demand.
30%.
Yeah. The report explicitly warns of a moderate, about 40 to 60% risk of overall energy spikes. When you suddenly demand a 30% increase in cooling from a commercial rooftop HVAC unit that hasn't been running at summer capacity for months, you are testing every single component of that machine.
Which is why the report is practically screaming at Southern operators to urgently check their air filters, check their refrigerant levels, and recalibrate their thermostat set points immediately.
Right, because if that unit fails on an unseasonably 85-degree day, the dining room becomes a sauna. The kitchen, which is already hot from the grills and fryers, becomes unbearable for the staff.
Oh man, working a grill with no AC.
It's dangerous. Customers leave and revenue plummets. Now, the flip side is interesting. Northern locations, like that restaurant in Pittsburgh, actually get a temporary efficiency boost.
Really? How so?
They are experiencing significantly reduced heating demand, so their energy costs for this week will likely come in under budget. But for the South, it's an urgent maintenance warning.
And it looks like this isn't just a brief one-week anomaly either. The report projects further out into a 14 and 21-day climate shift.
They are looking at the long game.
For the 14-day window, from March 9th to March 15th, they are seeing a 50 to 70% likelihood of above normal temperatures continuing across most of the U.S. The highest probabilities are locked in over the southeast and the west.
Unsurprising, given the patterns.
They note that warm anomalies of 10 to 20 degrees are likely in the south and southwest. In fact, there is a 30 to 50% chance for notable warm departures of 15 degrees or more. The only real exception here is the Pacific Northwest, which remains near or even below normal.
They get a bit of a break.
Yeah. And importantly, they aren't signaling any sustained cold extremes under 20 degrees anywhere.
And that broader pattern holds as we look out to the 21-day window, spanning from March 14th to March 27th. The report indicates a 40 to 60% likelihood of sustained above normal temperatures. They attribute this to a pressure ridging effect.
Hold on, a ridging effect? What does that actually mean in terms of the weather we feel on the ground?
It's basically a massive dome of high pressure that parks itself over a region. Think of it like a giant atmospheric lid that traps the heat in place and forces storm systems to go up and around it.
Like a physical barrier in the sky.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
This ridging effect will give the southeast the strongest signals for continued, sustained warmth. Meanwhile, the northern tier of the country and the Pacific Northwest are showing equal chances, or slightly below normal temperatures, because there's the possibility of cold air intrusions dipping down around that ridge.
We're sneaking past the lid.
Exactly. But overall, the trend is unmistakably warm.
So if we trace the journey of a hypothetical operator this week, on Monday they are looking at clear skies. By Wednesday, they are bracing for a potential tornado and hail destroying their patio in Dallas. And by the weekend, they are dealing with a massive unseasonal heat wave threatening their energy budgets and stressing their HVAC systems across the entire southern half of the country.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it perfectly illustrates the ultimate dilemma for a restaurant owner in the spring, which GWT2Energy highlights brilliantly in their report.
It's chaotic.
It's a double-edged sword of spring weather. These warm trends are fantastic for top-line revenue. They boost outdoor patio traffic. People want to be out. They want to buy drinks and appetizers.
Everyone loves a patio day.
But simultaneously, that exact same warm weather is quietly eating away at the bottom line by increasing southern cooling costs and putting severe wear and tear on the HVAC equipment. And all the while, Those midweek storms remain the primary disruption risk that could shut the whole operation down in an instant.
It really is an exhausting balancing act, but I appreciate that the report doesn't just leave them with the problem. It provides a very specific set of action items. Spend less time worrying and more time preparing.
Exactly. Proactive measures.
GWT2 Energy's exact recommendations for operators this week are clear-cut. Number 1, pre-check HVAC systems in those warm risk cities immediately. Do not wait for the system to break.
Crucial advice. Number 2, schedule energy audits now so you can optimize the systems for these variable spring loads. Number 3, closely monitor local National Weather Service, or NWS, and Storm Prediction Center, SPC, updates specifically for those midweek storms hitting Texas and Oklahoma.
Keep an eye on the actual local radar.
Right. And finally, they recommend operators reach out to them directly. That's either via their website at www.gwt2energy.com or by emailing support@gwt2energy.com. That's for tailored HVAC optimization or to set up backup power consultations.
Which is highly recommended right now.
So when they talk about an energy audit, what does that actually look like in practice for a restaurant?
An energy audit is a deep dive into the building's physical operations. A professional will come in and look at things you wouldn't normally think about. Are the seals on the walk-in cooler doors leaking cold air?
Oh, losing efficiency right there. Right. Are the thermostat set points optimized so the AC isn't battling the kitchen exhaust fans? Can we shift some of the heavy electrical loads, like running the massive dishwashers, to off-peak hours to avoid those peak demand charges we talked about earlier?
Oh, that's smart. Washing dishes when energy is cheaper.
Exactly. It's about finding hidden inefficiencies before the weather forces them to fail.
That makes a lot of sense. And before we wrap up, we should definitely touch on the fine print at the bottom of the document. The compliance disclaimers highlight how this intelligence is actually gathered. GWT2 Energy isn't launching their own weather satellites into orbit.
They're relying on the big agencies.
Right. This data is synthesized from public sources, primarily the NOAA Climate Prediction Center and the Storm Prediction Center. They make it very clear to their clients that these percentages are official probabilistic outlooks. They are not guarantees. Atmospheric conditions can and do change rapidly.
It's essentially playing the ultimate game of weather poker. It's probabilistic intelligence. You play the odds, you make the smartest bet based on the data, but you have to accept that sometimes the 5% chance is the reality that actually happens.
Sometimes that one storm hits directly.
Exactly. They provide a summary for general awareness, and they assume no liability if a restaurant manager makes a financial decision based on the newsletter and the weather shifts. They advise always verifying with official local forecasts and consulting licensed professionals for equipment matters.
So what does this all mean? Next time you are out to eat, whether you are sitting on a perfectly sunlit patio with a cold drink or sitting inside a beautifully air-conditioned dining room while it's unseasonably sweltering outside, I want you to think about this deep dive.
You'll never look at a thermostat the same way.
You really won't. Even if you don't live in Dallas or Atlanta, this matters because it shows how vulnerable our modern local service economies are to even minor shifts in weather. Behind every perfectly comfortable dining experience is a commercial operator making complex, hyper-vigilant calculations. They're balancing weather probabilities, forecasting hidden energy spikes, and executing serious risk management just to make sure your dinner goes off without a hitch.
It really is a hidden world of logistics. And this raises an important question, a final thought to mull over, drawing directly from the report's focus on backup power consultations and the risk of energy spikes.
Okay, let's hear it.
We've spent a lot of time discussing how an individual restaurant faces a sudden 20 to 30% jump in their cooling load to combat this unseasonal March heat. But imagine the compounding effect on a city's aging power grid when thousands of commercial buildings, retail spaces, and restaurants in a massive metro area like Dallas or Atlanta react to an unseasonal 85-degree day by simultaneously flipping their massive commercial systems from heat to maximum air conditioning.
All hitting the grid at the exact same moment.
Yes. Could it be that the biggest threat to a restaurant's operational survival during an unseasonal heat wave isn't actually their own HVAC system failing, but rather the sheer overwhelming energy demands of the businesses right next door, bringing the entire local grid down?
Now, that is a terrifying and fascinating thought to leave on. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the hidden systems that keep our world running. Keep asking questions, stay curious, and we will catch you next time as we keep exploring the fascinating details hidden right in front of us.